So the next one, so internal performance distractors, before we go to motivation, too much self-awareness, or analysis and evaluation, negative self-talk, distorted thinking, catastrophizing or exaggerating, focus on feelings of fatigue, pain, injury, doom, previous errors or failure, preoccupation with irrelevant or excessive emotional responses. External performance distractors are noise, spectators, movement on the periphery, the weather, confusing signals, competitive pressure. There's no pressure in competition, by the way. There's no such thing. If pressure existed, tell me why one person does well and another person doesn't do well in the same situation. The only pressure that exists is internal. It's you allowing pressure to get to you. Right? So one person can allow it and another person cannot. Okay? Media, camera sounds, verbal intimidation, opponents' antics, unexpected arousal agents. Right? The third construct is motivation. Motivation is the driving force that initiates, directs, and sustains behavior. Athletes require motivation in order to persist and achieve their goals. There are two kinds of motivators. There's intrinsic motivators. These are natural drives that are initiated from within the athlete internally that lead to self-actualization. And extrinsic motivators, natural drives that are initiated from influences in the environment or external to the athlete. One of the studies that was done when I was in university was the effect of internal versus external motivators, and it was on kids, but it applies to us as well. It applies to adults as well. And what they did is they tried to figure out why are kids involved in sport. And they found that kids get involved in sport for internal reasons, because it's fun. They also get involved for an external reason, because their friends do it. They don't most often get involved in sport because they can win something. That's adults. Adults bring the win something in. But when those kids' internal motivators become... So all of us have a combination of internal and external. There's nothing wrong with either. It's the amount that you have of each. And so kids are mostly internally motivated. They have some external motivation. Most of them anyways. When the internal motivation becomes mostly external, when it becomes the awards, the prizes, when it's mom putting your training on the fridge and saying, have you done your training today? When it's the coach pushing you. What ends up happening is any internal motivation that people have actually dies. And so then when they get in the situation when the external motivator is no longer there, change of coach, aren't winning, don't win a prize, mom stops saying, are you doing your training? What happens is the kids stop. Because they've lost their internal motivation. Those motivators don't exist anymore. It's not fun anymore. And so the answer to there is that when it comes to motivation, it should be primarily because you feel, it helps you to feel better about yourself and it's fun for you to do. Not because you're going to win prizes. Or not because you get a jacket. I was on the football team in high school. I was a center on the line. I was 5'8" and weighed 220 pounds. But I, like 75% or 85% of the kids that play football, was there for the jacket. Like, I really didn't like football, but the jacket was really nice. We had black leather jackets with gold, and I can remember you had your name on the sleeve and your number. It was awesome. And when you walked down the hall, people looked at you like, you must be something. So it was all external. And of course, when high school finished, I never played football again. Because there was no way I was going any further because there was no jackets. I don't have that jacket anymore. So now I wear my ski jacket. Common reasons for participation in sport. Competence, mastery, or improvement. Fitness, affiliation, team aspects, competition, learning new skills, fun and enjoyment. Common reasons for dropping out. Stop learning. No more improvement anymore. Lack of involvement. Overemphasis on winning. Dislike of the coach's philosophy or values. Parental intrusion. Lack of fun and enjoyment. Emergence of other interests. Essentially what I was saying. But so, at the bottom of this, what I've written is this. Is that at a developmental level, when anxiety goes up, self-confidence, concentration, and motivation go down. At an elite level, when anxiety goes up, it doesn't affect the other three. So an elite level performer, psychologically, I'm not saying an elite level athlete because there's a lot of them that are still at the developmental level, even though they might be international athletes. Someone who's at an elite level as a performer psychologically, if there's anxiety before the race, it doesn't affect their confidence in themselves. They're not worried about whether they can perform or not. And most of them say, you know, I got to be a little nervous to do well. If I'm not nervous, I'm not going to do well. I need to be up. I'm not up. They know where that's an okay situation. They're feeling that queasiness in their stomach. They know what that feels like, so they go and they warm up and they get rid of it, right? And they focus on something else. The second thing that they do is it doesn't affect their concentration. They're not thinking about what everybody else. They're still able to focus. Even though they have anxiety, they're still able to focus and think about the right things. And it certainly doesn't affect their motivation when they have anxiety. They're not saying, oh, I don't think I can do this. They're not being negative. They're not doing those things. So those are the four main constructs. But at the very least, if you understand anxiety and its effect on concentration, on confidence, and on motivation before a race, and if you understand the concept of making a plan, and we worked with the national. When I was with the national team in the 80s and early 90s, we worked with a guy by the name of Brent Russell, who was at that time at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay. He's now at San Diego State University. He's an Australian. He was a swim coach who was one of the top swim coaches in the world at one time. He now does a lot with triathletes down in San Diego because it's a real base for triathlon. And Brent helped us to create plans, to do a whole planning process. And he was with us for about 7 or 8 years. And he had a real positive effect on the performance of our athletes in terms of race planning. And we'll get into race planning a little bit more as we go along, and how to put together a pre-race and a race plan. But so there's a lot of stuff in there. And I think, you know, to me, it's been a key for my performance in races because I always have a plan. And my goal is to follow my plan. And I really don't care what other people are doing unless it affects my plan. And then I will adjust and cope to what's happening based upon the coping strategies that I put in my plan. So if such and such does such and such, here's what I'm going to do. Or if this happens at the start, here's what I'm going to do. So you never have to panic, you always have some coping strategies.